Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome into O'Neill's Grill for our weekly Fan and Press Luncheon with JMU head football coach Mike Houston. My name is Kurt Dudley from Madazone HD Sportsnet in the JMU Athletics Communications Office. The Dukes coming back from Orono, Maine with a 31-20 victory over the Maine Black Bears to open up Colonial Athletic Association play, leaving the Dukes at 3-1 overall and 1-0 in the CAA. And the Dukes moved up from number 11 to number 7 on the Stats FCS poll, and it moved up one notch from number 7 to number 6 on the coaches poll this week. JMU is one of 5 CAA teams ranked on both polls. Delaware, which is 2-1, bringing that overall record to campus this weekend, will open up conference play here. Delaware is receiving votes. The Blue Hens have wins over Delaware State, that is, and Lafayette, and they have a 38-21 loss to the Demon Deacons of Wake Forest. A couple of other individual notes. JMU still leads FCS with 110 first downs, second in scoring, just a shade under 50 points a ball game, and is also second in rushing, 328 yards per contest. On the defensive side of the ball, the Dukes are 8th this week in interceptions with their 6. They picked off 3 Black Bear passes on Saturday, and they're 14th in rushing defense, allowing just 100 yards per game. To the individuals, Khalid Abdullah was named the Offensive Player of the Week in the Colonial Athletic Association. He is averaging 111 yards per game rushing. He came up with a career-high 172 in the ball game with 22 carries against Maine this past Saturday. And he is now up to 2,313 career rushing yards, and that is number 10 all-time at James Madison. He just did pass Eugene Holloman into that 10th spot. Cardin Johnson averaging 101.8 yards rushing per game. That is 3rd in the CAA and 18th nationally, by the way. Khalid is 2nd in the league and 12th nationally. Saturday's meeting will be the 24th between the two programs. The Hens do lead this one 14-9. And JMU won last year in dramatic fashion, scoring the final 10 points of the ball game, and it was a Brian Shore pass to Brandon Ravenel for the game winner last year up in Newark. Saturday's meeting also kicks off at 12:30. It is the at 1:30. It is the family weekend game, and pregame coverage on the JMU Sprint Broadcast Network with Dave Thomas and Alex Vela will begin at 12:30, and that's accessible online through Madazone's free audio as well as through WSVA online. We'll also have, of course, Madazone video coverage. That begins at 1:30 as well with yours truly and Adam Coolbaugh. This, again, as I mentioned, is family weekend. It's kind of a Delaware JMU weekend as well. Other Madazone productions this weekend. We'll have a rematch of last year's CAA field hockey title game as Delaware's in town for a 6 o'clock tilt against the Dukes. That's at JMU's field hockey complex. Again, 6 o'clock pregame coverage on Madazone, also at 6. And then women's soccer, congratulations, Dave Lombardo. I failed to mention this last week. He reached his 400th career coaching win. There have been very few in the country that have done that. In fact, JMU is now one of only 3 schools in all of NCAA Division I to have both a women's coach and a men's coach to reach the 400 career coaching milestone at a university. Of course, Dr. Tom Martin did so with the men's program when he was guiding them a couple of years ago. And but the women's soccer Dukes facing Delaware at home on Sunday afternoon at Centera Park. That, too, is on Madazone. It begins at 1 o'clock. But it is football time now. Let's bring in Mike Houston, who made his debut in the CAA with the victory over the Maine Black Bears 31-20. And he'll address us here this afternoon at O'Neill's Grill. Coach?
Good afternoon. I want to welcome everybody out, and thanks for being here to support our program today. And thanks again to O'Neill's for having a great setting for us today as we come back in to talk about what I think was just a really quality win on the road by our program and by our young men, going up to Maine this past weekend, facing a very tough, hard-nosed, like I told you last week, motivated football team coming off of a bye. I thought their coaches had their team very, very prepared this past weekend. I thought that Maine played very well, and we were obviously greatly challenged. And at the half, being down 13-10, we had a lot of adversity right there. weren't really clicking on all cylinders in the first half offensively. Maine had a lot to do with that. But to come back out in the second half, get the momentum, going our way there pretty quickly there in the third quarter, and then able to come back again and score the final 14 points of the game in the fourth quarter, and able to pull out a road win in that nature. I just think it was a quality weekend for our program and for our kids. So I thought they showed a lot of character there in the second half. With their resiliency and the way they really stuck together, and I thought really their conditioning and hard work by our strength staff really paid off in the fourth quarter. Where I thought that was really one of the deciding factors there. So excited to be 1-0 in the CAA. Obviously that had to quit thinking about that pretty quickly on Sunday when you start looking at Delaware, another team coming off a bye. They've had a full week of preparation for us already, so they'll have a second week to get ready for us this week. You look at Delaware, on film, and, first thing that sticks out is they are a really good-looking football team. Very big up front on both sides, not sloppy at all, strong-looking, fronts on both sides, athletic skill kids, quarterback Joe Walker, certainly a dual threat player there under center, and just a really impressive looking group on film. And they've got two quality wins over Lafayette and Delaware State. Played Wake Forest really tough, losing 38-21 to an undefeated 4-0 ACC team at their place. So we have a top tier FCS team coming in here Saturday, and in my opinion, I think we will have to, by far and away, play our best game of the year in order to have a chance to get the win Saturday. You look back at the history of this series, Delaware has always played JMU well. I think you look especially back at the last 3 years, and I think last year was the first time that JMU's gotten a win in the series in a while, and it was a tough one. Having to score late. I think the final touchdown was with 17 seconds left when Brian hit Brandon for the winning score. So certainly, a pretty tough test coming in here on family weekend. Expect it to be, a good crowd at Bridgeforth Stadium. We're excited to be back home. Feels like forever since we played Central Connecticut State, and so be excited to be back in front of our fans in our locker room. A little bit more close to the routine that the kids feel comfortable with. So should be a great weekend for football. But all that being said, questions from the media?
Tommy Keeler, Northern Virginia Daily. Can you just talk a little about Khalid Abdul and the game that he had last week against Maine?
Well, I thought, for what that game was going to be like and how we were going to have to play to win it, I thought Khalid was vital, obviously. I thought he did a great job. He ran for 172. He had a 50-yarder call back on a holding call. Could have easily ran for two, the mid-twos there. The 85-yarder is the one that sticks out. A couple things happened on that play. It was a check at the line of scrimmage. Maine was pressuring us. Brian got us into the right check. Our offensive front picked up the blitz to where Khalid was virtually untouched. He was able to bounce it to the edge, and once he got into the secondary, able to use his speed to pull away. But the ones that don't stand out maybe to the fans are the 3- and 4-yarders. Where it's between the tackles. Khalid, number one, did a great job taking care of the football because he was taking a pretty good beating up inside. Number two, he did not lose yardage. He's always falling forward. A strong running day for him. He ran behind his pads really well against a pretty formidable front that was trying to stack the box on him. So I thought he was key in the win Saturday.
Thomas, ESPN Harrisonburg and JMU Sprint Broadcast Network. Talk about the adjustments, if any, that you made at halftime to overcome the adversity, because you quickly turned the tables coming out of the locker room in the third quarter.
Well, I thought a couple things. Number one, we just stressed to our kids, this is going to be a 4-quarter battle. We got to stick together, keep pulling for each other. We can't be divided in the second half. We can't start griping about, we're not doing this or stick together, stay on focus, one play at a time. And that really is what I tell them, in situations like that. So it's not some cliche or anything, but I thought that, coming out in the second half, we pressured Collins on the first snap. And even though Jimmy missed the tackle, he came clean on the pressure. He missed the tackle, but it did get Collins a little flustered, and forced him into probably a throw he wished he had back, or definitely a throw he wished he had back, that Jordan Brown was able to intercept. And that was a critical play because they had just they ran the counter on the kickoff return to get really good field position to start the second half. So they definitely had a lot of momentum there at that point. But Jordan, with the pick right there, and then Khalid 3 plays later scores. Obviously that was big to get our momentum back. But I think the pressures that we were able to dial up in the second half and get Collins uncomfortable in the pocket. Even when we didn't get a sack, we had him moving around a lot. He wasn't just sitting back there throwing. And certainly, a couple of those picks have got to rattle his confidence a little bit.
What about offensively? Because it seemed in the first half they were getting some pressure on Brian, but that really began to evaporate in the second half. Can you talk about any changes you made there?
Well, I thought we did a little bit better with our checks according to what we were seeing pre-snap in the second half, as evidenced by the play with Khalid. We did some things to take advantage of their pressure, and I don't really want to get a whole lot more into it than that, but it worked out. I think that you had a big play obviously by John Miller there on the touchdown reception, which was he just beat his man at the line. Brian obviously had the time right there and able to throw a strike in there for the touchdown. But I thought our offense played obviously much better in the second half.
Greg Medea, DNR. You mentioned Jimmy Moreland coming on that corner blitz.
Yeah.
What have you seen from Jimmy over the past, couple of weeks that led him to have some more playing time?
Well, I do think Jimmy has, we go all the way back to last spring. I think Jimmy has done everything that I've asked him to do since I got here. He's doing well off the field. He's doing really well in the classroom, and his practice habits have been really, really good. Did Jimmy play a perfect game Saturday? No. And he and I have talked about that. He and Coach Weaver have talked about that because really he had a really good week of practice last week. But it was good to see him to be out there on the field. Hopefully that playing time is going to lead to him being able to play more like he's practicing right now, because I think he is practicing better than what he played on Saturday. But certainly he's a talented young man that we're glad we have on our roster.
David de Guzman, WHSV in Harrisonburg. With Khalid, how has he developed for you as a vocal leader for this team, whether it's in the locker room, practice, or even during the game?
Well, I think, Khalid is not a guy that says a whole lot, out on the practice field. But really, you get him talking, and he's he's well-spoken, he's very intelligent, and really, can have a lot of great thoughts. So I wish he would speak up a little bit more. The biggest thing he's done since I got here is more of leading by example. And the big thing that sticks out to me is his practice habits, which are the same as his habits in the weight room. He does not take a day off at practice. If you go and watch him on a Tuesday of any week that we've had so far this season, any day we had during the spring, Khalid is the hardest worker on the field. And it's every drill, every play, everything he's doing. He's one speed. He's honed in on what his job is, and he tries to do it to the best of his ability, whether he's carrying the ball or he's protecting for Brian or he's a play fake. He's always giving great effort, has great work habits, and that's really the thing that sticks out the most to me.
And this is obviously a team that relies a lot on the run. I'm wondering, how has Brian's passing game developed from week one till now, and what more do you want to see out of that?
I think Brian is doing a good job with distributing the football where it needs to go. He had the one mistake there on Saturday on the pick that really was he made a mistake with reading the route that the receiver was running, and they were on a different page. So aside from that mistake, he played really well on Saturday. He's been everything we've asked him to be this year. He does a good job of getting us in the right plays. I think he has good presence in the pocket, not to get rattled. He'll stand in there when there's a lot of heat around him. And then if he has to take off, he's got the ability to extend plays or to scramble and gain yardage with his feet also.
I think Delaware has 8 interceptions. what do you see that enables them to create so many turnovers?
The big thing is they create a lot of pressure up front. You know, their front four, especially their interior tackles, have tremendous size. 99's a great rusher off the edge. You know, they do use a lot of pressures, zone pressures, man-free pressures, and so you know they force some people into some situations where you know the quarterback couldn't sit there and have a whole lot of time. And obviously they're talented in the secondary, but I think they're a solid defensive football team. I think we'll be challenged to run the ball Saturday. I think we're going to have to be able to throw the ball effectively to balance out our run game. And if we can do that, if we can be able to keep people off balance, be able to do both effectively, then we should be able to move the football. But I think they're a solid defensive football team.
Staying on offense, you lead the league in time of possession. I think they're third. Two of the better running teams in the league.
Yep.
Is controlling the football and winning the battle of time of possession going to be more important this week, or how important will it be?
I think the big thing is probably for both of us is to stay on schedule. You know, to be able to give ourselves manageable second downs, manageable third downs if it gets to that. And I think both teams would tell you that because the ability to drive the football Saturday is going to be key to be able to, because you may not have as many possessions. And so you got to take advantage of the ones you have.
Talk a little bit about the running game for Delaware and what kind of stands out about the running game.
Well, first, their offensive line's huge. They're big kids, and then you look at the way they can move their feet. You know, they move very well for big linemen. Again, they're not sloppy. But then, you look at their running backs. Wes Hills, 31. He's averaging 107 yards a game. Thomas Jefferson, 28, is averaging 75 yards a game. And Jalen Randolph, 33, is averaging 65 yards a game. They're all three over 200 pounds. Randolph's about 230. So they're all big kids. 28 has top-end speed. 31 is a very physical runner. So, it's not like you can sit there and say, okay, if we can get this kid out of the game or we can, slow this kid down, we got it, they're going to keep coming at you. And then you factor in their quarterback, 3, Walker, who, it's nothing for him, just run, a quarterback draw or take off scrambling. I think he's averaging almost 50 yards a game running. They are a quality running football team. It's going to take a great effort by our defense to slow them down on Saturday.
They are very run heavy as far as
Yeah.
the run versus pass. How important is it for your defense to play assignment football as far as not biting on ball fakes such as at Carolina?
Sure, no doubt. Because the one thing, probably Walker's strength is his ability to throw the ball accurately down the field. He's got a very strong arm, and that's probably he probably throws a more accurate ball down the field than he does the intermediate routes. And certainly they've got speed with 80 Cherry, their leading receiver there. He's had a couple of long touchdown passes this year. So we've got to do a great job with not being disciplined with our eyes in the secondary with the amount of run that we're going to see. Not to be able to give up the play action deep ball.
Coach, that takes us to one of our Facebook questions similar to pass defense. As Mike Evangelista says, he's noticed that Coach Trott likes to play off coverage, if you would. With Delaware's passing game, are we looking to play more bump and run, man zone coverage with athletes that we have at the corner positions and challenger wide receivers? As he noticed that Joe Walker was hurt last week. On paper, they seem to have a favorable advantage in the passing game.
Right. Well, Walker, I expect him to play Saturday. He did not play against Wake, but he did practice on Sunday according to Coach Brock, so I would expect him to play Saturday. The big thing is, when you really look at everything we do in the secondary, we play a lot of different coverages. We play a lot of man coverage. We play a lot of zone coverage. We man blitz. We zone blitz. And certainly we're going to have to use a lot of different looks Saturday, if we can get them in a situation, where they're throwing the football.
I'd have another question from Facebook. Jimmy Flick wondering about Taylor Reynolds. Is he still playing at corner? Missed him last week, he says. Of course, he was not on the trip. Maybe the best corner in the CAA, according to Jimmy's observation. What do you think about that?
Certainly Taylor is a quality player, and I think he's one of the best DBs in the conference. I do expect him to play Saturday. He had an issue where he could not play this past weekend, but we do expect him to be there on Saturday.
You talked about Khalid's 3 and 4 yard runs and Cardin's 3 and 4 yard
Yeah.
runs during the game, which maybe go unnoticed to a lot of fans. Does that bode well for you come fourth quarter when they've had a lot of those 3 and 4 yard runs as far as what your O-line does and the punishment your backs deal out to the opposing
Right.
defense?
And to me, that's what I was kind of getting at a while ago with the conditioning thing. What we saw in the fourth quarter is, all those bubble screens where the defense is having to run a lot, all those, 3 and 4 yard runs where, our backs are staying fairly fresh with us rotating them, and they're forcing the defenders to tackle them play after play. Those things add up by the fourth quarter. And we saw, quite a few of the Maine defenders go out of the game there, in the fourth quarter. And so, and certainly that had a good deal to do with a 14-0 fourth quarter advantage in scoring.
Coach, did Maine, having them coming off the bye, did they come off as fresh to you guys? And I guess,
Yeah.
what do you take away from that as you face another team who's coming off a bye?
The biggest thing is I think that we got their best shot. I mean, I really do. I mean, they had some things that we had not seen from them on film, so they had some great adjustments. They had some wrinkles within their basic scheme on offense and defense that I think you could not have done with just 1 week to get ready. That on top of having a completely healthy team facing you, certainly that gave them an advantage in that game. But the thing that we can control is us, and so that's what we've got to focus on. If we focus on what we do, having our team as prepared as we can be prepared, having our team playing to the top of their ability level on each and every Saturday, then those are the things that we can control, and then go out and face whatever our opponent can do.
Saturday's going to feature 2 of the better special teams in the league. Delaware's awfully good at a lot of the things they do. You're awfully good. What's going to be the biggest challenge with what they do on special teams?
Well, I think just like on offense and defense, they play their special teams the same way. You see big, strong kids that are very aggressive. You look at their kickoff team. You got 10 guys that are impressive-looking athletes, and they're full throttle coming right at you. And they do that in every phase of special teams. So we're obviously going to have to be able to be very aggressive, whether it's on cover teams or return teams. Be great with our blocks on return teams. Be great at getting off of blocks on our coverage teams, and being good tacklers, because the ball carriers they have running the football are big, strong kids.
Coach, coming from us from Chicago, Illinois, Eric McCann watching. He was wondering if, compared to the previous 4 opponents, does Delaware present anything unique this weekend?
Well, I just think that their size and their physicality on both sides of the football. Certainly, North Carolina is kind of at a different level, with the type of team they have this year. But I think besides them, this is easily the biggest, strongest, football team we've seen this year.
Anything else from the local media? All right, thank you for watching on Facebook.
Thanks a lot. Go Dukes.
Thank you, Coach. Again, the Dukes against the Delaware Blue Hens. Kickoff is 1:30 at Bridgeport Stadium. Thank you for joining us this week at O'Neill's Grill. We'll be back here again next Tuesday for more of the JMU football fan and press